I've always been a really big proponent of having a distinctive point of view that's really anchored in data or anchored in something that's uncopyable by your competitors or other people in the space. So we put out a report every year. It's actually at the time of this recording, we're on the brink of putting our annual report out where we study hundreds of employers. And this year it's nearly 1 million employees globally and how they're designing their benefits programs, how they're funding them, and how employees are actually spending across different categories and looking at the trends. So this is stuff that's really only we can tell that, only we have this data to share. And it's something that our market really looks to us for. And we're really well respected in what we produce here. So from a storytelling perspective, I think anchoring on the stuff that you have that no one else can really copy or no one else can claim is really going to be super impactful.
Hello and welcome back to Best Story Wins. I'm your host, Josh, and I'm here with my co-host, Ross. And today our guest is Amanda from Forma. Hey, Amanda. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to having this chat, Amanda. So for people that aren't familiar yet with you and Forma, can you walk us through your background and give kind of a broad stroke overview of what Forma does and what you do there?
Sure. Yeah, happy to. So for me, my whole career has been really anchored in storytelling, content marketing. And I think over time, I'm really that kind of T-shaped marketer with a lot of, broad experience, but really a love for all things content and story and narrative. And over here at Forma, we're an employee benefits platform company. And I think usually when you start thinking of employee benefits, you probably think more of the health plans, your health insurance, dental plans, and we really anchor more toward the flexible benefits. And we really pioneered the lifestyle spending accounts category. So think more, benefits that you can use for more everyday things. I like to think of it as the benefits that kind of sometimes make people smile a little bit, bring a little more joy to your life, give you a little more room in your budget. So, we really, play more in that space, which has been really an exciting place for me to be and dig into the stories that we have going on here.
Yeah, that's really cool. Was there anything that was difficult for you to understand or to explain as you got into Forma and noting that is kind of not a traditional benefits type company?
Yeah, for sure. I think what's really interesting is for me, a lot of my career was spent working for myself. So my husband and I actually had a content agency together for almost a decade. So I wasn't really in the type of company where you have robust benefits programs and HR functions. So, only kind of being back in-house for the last couple of years, it's really a space where I don't have a ton of experience on the employee side. So it was really navigating this people are really getting benefits like this out there.
How nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really kind of like experiencing it firsthand as an employee because we're our own customer too, right? So it's been really exciting to be a user and really get up close and personal with our platform from that perspective. And then also from the other side of it was really tapping into who our customers are, the types of organizations we work with, and the types of people who are the champions and the administrators of our program. So one of the things that I wouldn't say it's a challenge necessarily, but, an area that's really helped me to become better at my job and create the types of stories that matter is really getting closer to our customers, talking with people, understanding what does a day-to-day really look like for you? What are the things that stress you out? Really hearing how people talk in a real setting to understand what the job entails. So yeah, just really kind of like trying to, walk in someone else's shoes as a marketer.
I'm curious there as a follow-up, what was that experience like going from kind of running your own agency and working for a variety of clients to going in-house? Like what was that shift like for you?
Well, for me, it was really great. And I think kind of a long time coming or maybe an inevitable thing for me. I had been missing the sense of team for a while. And I don't know if you guys feel this sense sometimes, but I kind of like fall in love with my client teams or I, become so immersed and become an extension of that team. And inevitably when engagements end or things change, I'm like, oh man, it's like I felt like I was really a part of it. And I wanted to have that feeling of permanence and that I was really a part of something. So for me, going back in house, a lot of it was around, having more of that culture and that built-in team around you that you can really shape and sink your teeth into the work that you're doing together in a way that feels more long term and you have the ownership over it. So that's been really fulfilling for me. I think too, the other side of it is, you may think, oh, like having a boss might be different or having that HR department might be really different. And yes and no. I think when you have clients, you're still sort of answering to a boss in some ways, right? So I feel like that transition wasn't super challenging. But yeah, for me, I would say it's just been really fulfilling. And over at Forma, I've been having a great time since I joined back in late 2024.
Amanda, what about this problem was compelling enough for you to say, hey, I want to go work on that and go take a in-house role working on that?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think what's really interesting around the employee benefit side is there's just a human story that's at the center of all of this. And I've worked with so many companies over the years in the tech space, in the B2B tech space. And often it's like making things go faster, adding that efficiency or safety, security. So this had this story angle that felt so emotional and real. So that was really compelling to me to go into a space like that, for sure. And one of the things that I've really come to understand through working at Forma and through talking with our customers is this sort of unsung hero ness of benefits leaders, total rewards teams that are making huge, important decisions with people's benefits that are affecting hundreds, thousands of people's lives. And there's a weight that's on these people. And I feel like, for us to be able to empower them to make decisions in an easier way, to feel like at the end of the day they're giving their workforce, their people, the best options that they can. There's something really fulfilling about that as well. So I think, for us, we talk about this problem that we solve here of this more is more paradox and benefits. And not to get too much in the minutia here, but a lot of large companies, their benefits programs have really grown through bringing in different point solutions to address different issues or different needs across their workforce. So it becomes, you've got these huge portfolios of different tools and platforms and logins for people to have to navigate. But then for the benefits team and the people administering that, it becomes so much work, so much stress, and so much time, that it's really challenging. So we've kind of identified this as this more is more. So you're just adding more, adding more, adding more, but it's kind of at the end of the day not yielding more for your people, and it's giving you a tougher day to slog through. So, that's sort of a problem that we're starting to coin that term and really tell stories around how we're helping to dismantle this or eliminate this problem. Through what we're doing here at Forma. So to me, it's a really interesting, compelling way to help not only the employees and the people on the other side of those benefits programs, but the people who are in the benefits teams who are really kind of the stars of the show and being able to deploy this to their workforces.
That problem resonates for sure. We've been on all sides of that spectrum of, the expansion and contraction of benefits, or consolidation rather. So it's an interesting problem. But I wanted to go back to what you were saying about kind of the human being at the center of the story there. I noticed just, being on the Forma site, that humanity kind of makes its way through in the brand. Like you can see it right away, contrasting against some other, HR type software sites. Was there something in particular from a brand perspective that kind of unlocked that, or that you felt like you were able to get that humanity communicated through the brand, either visually or verbally?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm so glad that you see that and feel that expressed through the brand, because I feel like that's so important. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like HR, human is the H, right? So we want to make sure that people are front and center in the stories we're telling, in our brand expression. So for sure, I think it's always been a priority of ours to make sure it's not so much about we're a platform or technology. We are helping you consolidate or optimize your budgets. But at the end of the day, it's improving people's lives, enhancing people's health, well-being, making it so that, somebody can get caregiving support for someone. Someone can maybe, pay for their groceries, once a month, and it takes that pressure off. So these are real human experiences that are on the other side of the technology that I just want to make sure that in our brand that realness and that genuine experience comes through. And I always go back to also, I think I said earlier, this kind of sense of joy that I hope comes through, and like a little bit of fun and making room for fun. Because I think too, when you think of benefits, or you think of like contacting your health insurance, it's usually not at a moment of fun or, like at a happy time. So, this is a way that sometimes we're able to make more room for that fun. And I really like that our brand expresses that in, the visual side and the stories we're telling, the customers that we're able to promote and prop up as well.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I just was looking again at the illustration style. It's really good. Kind of reminds me of Magic Spoon, that cereal brand. Have you ever heard that before?
I don't know. Now I've got to look for it.
It's like a protein rich cereal, but the colors and the illustration style are very, very similar.
Hmm.
Just, and kind of on that note, like as a jumping off point, like, those are two very different brands, right? An HR software, and then you have like a protein cereal. How do you think about like storytelling in the sense of like, okay, we're trying to reach HR leaders. Like, does that differ from maybe how you approach storytelling before in the past, where you worked on different brands? Or is there something that's just kind of universal in your opinion, and it doesn't really matter so much that like, all right, we're going after HR people, but the end users, the employees, how do you think about that?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I feel like there are some elements of storytelling and communicating that feel a little bit universal. Um, but certainly for going to the HR community and specifically benefits and total rewards leaders, so much of it has come through talking to people in these actual roles and the types of words they use and the type of fun personalities they bring. I think the people who I've met over the past year and a half of working here are just bright in so many ways, right? They have a bright positivity and they're people, but they're also super smart and really analytical and need to be sort of experts in compliance. And, they have all these different facets. So I think, being able to communicate with people and acknowledging those different facets, and that it doesn't have to be one note where, I think so often from a content perspective or even a product marketing perspective, it can be like, oh, we're here to be informative. And then that just means one sort of monolithic voice that's very, one-way communication. And I think there are so many ways to inform, to educate, to help people understand, where it doesn't necessarily have to all follow the same voice, all follow the same tone all the time. And we can dial it up, dial it down, change it situationally in our marketing. So for sure, I think that, trying to reflect what we're hearing from the market and from the real people who we're connecting to, who are using our product and who are making decisions for people's benefits, um, you know, that's really part of my job to make sure that we, in our own way, are expressing back to them sort of so they feel like they're being seen in what we're putting out there.
So one thing I noticed from looking at some of your writing is that we kind of shared this belief of like a strong story comes from a strong point of view or a unique perspective that a brand holds, that's maybe different from their competitors or from the space that they're in. I'm curious, when you think about the development of that point of view, like what separates one that's truly unique from something that's just kind of well produced?
That's such a great question. I think there are a few different facets that can go into this. And one thing that at Forma we really pride ourselves on is our unique research, our original research that we do here. So I've always been a really big proponent of having a distinctive point of view that's really anchored in data or anchored in something that's uncopyable by your competitors or other people in the space. So we put out a report every year. It's actually at the time of this recording, we're on the brink of putting our annual report out, where we study hundreds of employers. And this year it's nearly 1 million employees globally, and how they're designing their benefits programs, how they're funding them, and how employees are actually spending across different categories, and looking at the trends. So this is stuff that's really only we can tell, that only we have this data to share, and it's something that our market really looks to us for, and we're really well respected in what we produce here. So from a storytelling perspective, I think anchoring on the stuff that you have that no one else can really copy or no one else can claim is really going to be super impactful. And I think too, another facet of this that I have evolved my thinking on over the years is so many marketers, and it's not just in the benefit space, but I think in B2B, we really have anchored toward this FUD and to this, like everything is broken. So like we're the ones to fix it, or like you're wasting your budget. So, we're the ones who are going to save the day. And I think that there's so much messaging out there that almost talks down to audiences. And it creates this boomerang effect where you're almost inadvertently making your brand an adversary to the very people you want to reach and build trust with and build mindshare with. So, that's something too, where I feel like, standing apart in that regard too is not just anchoring to the everything is broken type of message, but really illuminating other facets of your story, other ways that you can show how people are successful or get people thinking, build that trust in other ways, is another really powerful way right now, I believe, to stand out.
That's a really interesting observation. I love what you said about the proprietary data piece too. I think that's something that we often talk about, that unique perspective being based on what's defensible, what's actually unique, and we think about that in like 3 vectors. Like there's like expertise or experience that's deeper than your competition. There's maybe a vision, a company vision that's different. But that third is unique first party data, whether that's product data or from a survey. And I think that's the most underutilized of the 3. The other 2 can kind of feel like a lot of hot takes, on LinkedIn or something like that. But it has so much more substance when you have the data to back it up, and then you can tell an infinite number of stories with that.
And then the takes don't have to feel so hot or don't have to feel rage bait, right? Or you don't have to go to the everything is broken, because you have more of a foundation to stand on. So I feel like it all works together for sure.
Yeah. Our background and our history is kind of in infographics and data visualization. So it's especially fun to be able to design those things as well. I feel like the visual piece of telling that story is, just as important as the verbal too.
Absolutely. I feel like I see more and more interesting expressions of research and data and stats coming out for different companies too. So definitely this year we're looking at our own report, our own annual, research, and saying, okay, how many different ways can we atomize this thing? How many different chapters of this story can we tell, and in different visual expressions and written expressions? So, more to come in this space from me too.
It seems like that kind of stuff it plays well on LinkedIn though, right? Like everything's broken. And then alternatively, you have like, I figured out this automation and I'm making like $100,000 a day. Like that kind of stuff plays well too. But it seems like the nuanced like truth telling is kind of hard to get people excited about.
Yeah. Well, and it's also how you look at success on LinkedIn. If we're looking at LinkedIn as the surface where these hot takes are happening, or this fear type of messaging is, or everything's broken messaging's happening, you can look at it as, I want the most engagement, I want the most impression, I want more and volume and be super visible. Or you can think about it as more of the what's happening behind the scenes, and with the smart take, that might be a little more measured. And you can use humor and you can use personality and all this stuff, but maybe we don't have to sort of almost accuse our buyer of like messing things up for themselves. That, exposing stories in different ways and connecting and not that we have to say everything's great, but just I don't know, this idea of blaming people that they're in this terrible position, I feel like just comes through so often. So, on LinkedIn too, it's like I don't know that I care so much about being a top voice or, having millions of impressions on things. Maybe that'd be great, but it matters more about getting that meaningful message from someone who is like, I like what you said about this, or, it's something where our CEO puts out something and he gets a message back, and then that person ultimately, turns into a really solid opportunity for us. And it's quieter, but it's still successful and it's still a great result. So I don't know. I'd anchor more toward what's genuine and the right way to build trust and relate with people over the hot takes and the bait.
Well, what's a signal on that note? I think you kind of touched on it already, but like, what's a signal maybe in addition to someone reading something written by your CEO and sending a message? What's a signal that tells you your story is landing? And if it's kind of more anecdotal too, that's fine.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one thing, like I mentioned earlier, I connect with our customers a lot, and I really feel like I've built some nice relationships where, I actually will take a content piece directly to them and say, like, what do you think? Like, give me your honest feedback on this. And not like it's a homework assignment, but, people in our space who are customers or consultants, there's a lot of benefits consultants who are really influential in our world. And so, that's an opportunity to really just get honest feedback from people as well. So to me, I see that as a super strong signal of even areas within the content where, recently we did a big thought leadership piece. And, I put out this message to someone in my network and said like, hey, can you just let me know what you think? And he really identified within this piece, certain like almost chapters or parts of it that he were like, this is really the strongest piece. And this is something no one's really talking about. So now that's given me signal. Not only is the content as a whole going to resonate with the people who matter, but there's a specific piece that I didn't even think was maybe the best part or the highlight. But now I'm like, oh, I should probably dig into this more and create more content around this because it's a gap out there that, we can really own more of that conversation.
Kind of switching into maybe some of the daily realities of, being in a marketing role. How do you balance this idea to craft to do great storytelling with also the short-term, pressure on creating demand and driving pipeline?
The best we can. We're all balancing the best we can, right? No, I mean, I think that the short-term pressures to drive demand should not come at the expense of great storytelling. And I think that throughout my career, I think I've seen things evolve and ebb and flow and worked on different campaigns and with different teams. And I'm like, why are we treating some of these sort of quicker moments as a throwaway? We can still have great storytelling, be really intentional about the narrative and the point of view and how we're putting this together. So I don't think that the need to drive pipeline, the need to drive demand has to be at odds with the storytelling piece at all. And I think that having that strong foundation helps you fuel those faster, shorter term turnarounds and campaigns and growth hacks just in a better way that will have a little more of that long-term shine for your brand where you're not like fighting against it.
Speaking of growth hacks, like what do you think a misleading metric in B2B marketing is that people are still relying on 2026?
Interesting. Yeah. There are probably a lot out there that we may all be guilty of or things that are evolving. One that I feel like is tough is I think that there's this knee-jerk reaction to look at every click or every download as buying intent. And it's we really need to think about buyer psychology and how people buy, and that just because someone downloaded your report or just because somebody clicked on a product page on your website doesn't necessarily mean they're, you know, signing up tomorrow. So I think being a little more patient and really looking at these signals more critically, I think is really important for marketers, and not just kind of saying like, oh, we got a click, so now let's, throw our SDRs on this, and like, pounce on people like as if they're, ready to sign up tomorrow. I think that there's like more restraint that we need as full go-to-market teams, not just marketers, but I think across the go-to-market function, to be a little more restrained, a little more elegant in how we treat the signals.
As you're seeing, curious, kind of as you're seeing the buyer behavior shift with AI search and that sort of thing, more people are doing early research there than other places. How has that changed how you approach kind of messaging, positioning, storytelling?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was actually just looking at some reporting from our agency the other day, and month over month, we had, I think, a 50% increase from LLMs from our traffic. So we're definitely, like many other companies out there, we're seeing the evidence that buyers are changing their behaviors and how they're looking for solutions, how they're looking for information. So definitely it's, I don't think we've perfected this yet. And probably most people out there are also in the same boat. It's still evolving. This is still a new space. But I think a lot of it is it's another extension of discoverability and visibility. And I don't know that we need to throw out any SEO playbooks or throw out how we've been thinking about storytelling or message building in the past, but look at what's already working, look at what's true to us, and really, again, thinking about that buyer psychology, thinking about what people need to know and presenting it in a way that helps them get to that answer in the fastest way possible, and is genuinely helpful and going to give that value is the name of the game. So we're doing more content, making sure that we're getting more of that FAQ style. So we're looking at some of the sort of tactical things that I think a lot of people are looking at, but really going a level deeper beyond the just like 101 level definitions of things, and really thinking about like a real human on the other side of AI and what they actually, need to learn and what they're looking for.
That's a really good perspective. And I think so many people are thinking the opposite direction, which is like the traffic is going away, so they're not coming through to our site. They're not seeing this helpful content that we're creating. AI is answering that for them. But ultimately, like if you're able to feed AI, the LLMs, with that thoughtful, in-depth content that is making it through, it's just in a different channel. And in some ways that could be more helpful because they're going probably much deeper in those conversations than they might in a Google search.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I know for myself, the way that I search and the way I interact in LLMs, I ask the questions differently, right? You probably are doing the same. So, just really thinking about that whole interaction, I feel like is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I was just hanging out with some friends on Friday night, and like the wives and the kids were inside, and it's all the dads. Me and my two buddies were outside by the fire and like having cigars, and like we're just like we're just chatting, and about nothing in particular. And then one of the guys he's a singer songwriter, and he was talking about how like we were talking about music, and we were talking about how like who likes what artists, like who our favorite artists were, and he's like, I don't even listen to music anymore. Like I just throw like goofy ideas into chat, and then I have it make songs for me and my kids, and then I play the songs for them. And like it was such a passing comment, but I was like, whoa, he just said he throws things in chat. Whereas like, for the last 20 years, everyone was like, I'm going to Google this, I'm going to Google that. And it had this really interesting effect on me where I'm like, oh, like things have shifted. Like, and they're just going to continue to shift to the point where like, it's just a thing you do now, and people don't think anything of it. But yeah, I think the way I relate to it is like, or at least in my own personal use, is like I think with the LLMs, like I think through like an idea and like have it challenge my assumptions or like push back on things, and then like once we get to like an idea that I want to pursue, then I'll sometimes throw it in chat and then also in search to see where the differences lie. But yeah, it's just a whole different mentality altogether. Like, have you noticed that as well?
Yeah, I really like to use different LLMs sort of simultaneously and a little bit play them against each other. So Claude is more of my bestie lately. So really using that, using Gemini and using chat and sort of asking it the same things and seeing what are the similar patterns, where is it challenging me in different ways and iterating. So to me, that's been really helpful to kind of pressure test my own thinking and spar back and forth. Um, and your example too, Josh, about the music and the throwing an idea in and creating songs for the kids. So, my son, who's almost 11, is he like still likes to have a bedtime story, but he comes up with like he gives us a premise, and like we're just like, oh my gosh, night. Like, so I've been putting it into chat, and I'm like, okay, give me a bedtime story for an 11-year-old boy that's about this type of Pokemon that lives in this type of thing, and its friend is this type of animal, and it gives me something, and I can read it in a very calm, quiet voice, and it's a great way to end the night. But I don't know if it's making me lazier as a parent or if it's a parenting hack that is, like saving some things. Jury's still out on that, but I think there are just so many interesting and unique ways that people are using this, and it is totally changing. Like even the way you said that, like, oh, like I'll just throw it in chat. That's a phrase that everyday people were not using a couple of years ago. So I think there's just so much that's just in our everyday lives, and just how much of that is changing from, a business decision maker mindset too.
Yeah, yeah, you put that more eloquently than I attempted to. But yeah, it's the whole idea of like, yeah, it's just a different like verb and different like, and it's just sometimes it can feel very throwaway, but it's like proof that behavior has seriously changed across the board. Um, we got to talk about LinkedIn a little bit. That's where I found you. That's where we first started chatting. I think you've done a really great job of creating a personal brand on LinkedIn, and I think your content's solid. And I'm curious, with LinkedIn serving as both like a channel these days, but also, like a credibility layer, like how do you think about showing up there in a way that enables you to stand out? Like, what have you done to stand out there?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think from a personal perspective, over the past year or two, I've kind of just said I'm going to be myself more and be a little less edited or a little less, I don't want to say polished, but just being more genuine. So, I mean, you'll see in my LinkedIn headline, it's the manicured marketer. So, for anyone who's watching, the YouTube version of this, my personal hobby that was sort of COVID era and everyone was home and just doing different artistic things, I kind of accidentally got really good at doing interesting nails. So it's been kind of just something that on every Zoom call I'm on, it just sort of is, it's become part of my personality. So instead of having this feel like something separate about me, I'm just making it a part of my personal brand on LinkedIn and everywhere else. So I think that there's this sort of leaning into our artistic pursuits and making room in your life for the creative, that is part of who I am, that I try to bring to my work. So I try to let that shine through, and um, having a little more fun with it. So I think, my LinkedIn, there's going to be a balance of some stuff where I'm like, hey, worked on this campaign, or, came up with this idea, or aligned with my customer success team, and, just different things that have worked well for me. So maybe it'll help someone else. You'll also see some SpongeBob gifs or things that just make me smile and giggle and laugh, and that's who I am too. So I think there's, a balance and a mix, and it feels very true to who I am, and based on the types of people who I've connected with through LinkedIn over the past couple of years, it's, because like it's connecting with others too. So it feels good. I feel like I'm representing myself in a way that is true and genuine.
Do you ever see like what does it look like on your end um to use it as like a channel for the business as well? Like have you seen much there that you can touch on?
Yeah, so I work really closely with our CEO on the executive brand as well on LinkedIn and meet with him pretty regularly to get, hey, brain dumps of what, he's thinking about and things that he wants to talk about. And there have been times where I'm like, hey, there's this, meme that I think would be, just nails sort of what you're talking about. And some of them we've gone and used, and he's got some great photos in different situations where he's like, here's a library of photos, let's do you have ideas on how we can tie this to a benefits concept? So we've really had some fun over the past year of getting creative on injecting a little bit of humor. And I think our brand is still, I don't know, we're experimenting with humor a little bit here and there. I don't think it's necessarily who we are as Forma, but I think, using these moments of levity or the unexpected, I think is really important for social in general. So it's somewhere that I'd like to lean into more over time. But I will say over the past year or so, he on his profile it got over, I think it was 1.8 million impressions on content. And we ran thought leader ads. It wasn't purely organic there, but definitely seeing his profile raised in our space. And a lot of that was due to a mix of helping him find the right ways to articulate points, and not necessarily hot. Some of them I think were hot takes, but smart takes. And also, showing a little bit of his personality as well, sort of the person who's building Forma and leading the way in this LSA space for us. So definitely seeing a lot of traction there. Seeing the brand page grow. I know for a lot of companies, brand pages have really been stagnant, but we've really seen some growth there as well, which is great. We're not using that as a beacon of brand necessarily, but yeah, I think that from a business side of it too, I mean, we definitely see LinkedIn as a key element of the mix.
I don't know if you caught this, but it's really looking like the LLMs are starting to take cues from LinkedIn. Like this is something that is just sort of being unearthed like this week in terms of like, for the longest time, everyone looked at Reddit as like the place where you needed to focus in terms of social, but increasingly LinkedIn is going to be playing a role there in terms of shaping the narrative and shaping prompt results. So I think the people that have taken LinkedIn as a channel seriously over the years, I think they're going to be very happy they did that, not just for the credibility that creates on LinkedIn and the personal brand factors on LinkedIn, but I think as everything starts to heat up even more with LLMs, it's only going to be a huge benefit. So excited to see how that plays out.
Yeah. I think too, another thing that I've noticed on LinkedIn, even I would say in the past 6 months or so, is it has gone from more buttoned up to much more of this is who I am, this is my genuine self. And it's almost, I wouldn't say it's like the Instagramification of LinkedIn, but there are elements of that feel a little more lifestyle, more a culture capital C is coming through on LinkedIn, which I think is a good thing. I think that more brands are going to have an ability to stand out and share things that are interesting, and it's going to push people harder to be more creative because the sort of tone is shifting a little bit. And I think too, there's someone who, I don't follow sports, so I'm going to say this wrong. And you can feel free to cut it if it's like way off base. But the college football winners, Indiana, uh, I don't know if it's the quarterback or one of their key players. He is, I think, part of the NFL draft. Again, I'm not saying it, but he joined LinkedIn, or he sort of souped up his LinkedIn to open to work, and he's been posting on there. And it's really this interesting bridge of culture, sports, and like having a little bit of fun with it that just feels fresh and different, and not something that I think even a year ago that we would have seen someone in that type of position to use LinkedIn as a platform for. So I think 2026 is going to be a really interesting year of creativity on LinkedIn, and what we're going to see changing on the platform.
Yeah, that's a cool take, and it's inspiring to hear about the way that you're reflecting just on your own presence there, just being more authentic. I think we can all take something from that. That's cool. Curious, kind of in your role as a marketing leader, is there are there things that you've stopped doing that you feel like have made you better at your job?
I love this question. And I think the thing I've stopped doing, or I'm actively trying to stop doing, is letting imposter syndrome win. It's something that I think I've come to find that so many of us feel. And it's the type of thing that in the moment you think you're the only one feeling it. But I really looked at 2025 as my year of yes. And I was going to say yes to more opportunities and try more new things and do a few things that scared me. I rode a horse. Like I did things that were just not in my normal comfort zone. And I think that's helped to empower me to push imposter syndrome away when it creeps up. And I'm just trying to ride that more and just, when I'm starting to feel it, just be like, no, I know what I'm doing. I'm great at my job. I have good taste. Whatever it is that's creeping in, just to say no. And I think it has made me a better marketer and a better leader and a better teammate. Um, so I would encourage anyone who has been feeling imposter syndrome to sort of commit to saying no, get out of here.
Yeah, it's interesting too. Like when you, I'm gonna get like a little woo woo here, but like whenever you like call out imposter syndrome and say that it's something you're working through or struggling with, like it feels like less a thing you have to worry about.
When you name it, when you call it out, you take some of the power away from it. So yeah, I'm not letting it win. More and more, so.
I love that. There's like so many people. I feel like it's so frequent. You hear their takes. Like on X, I think I see it a lot. Sometimes on LinkedIn too, where people are just saying like no one knows what they're doing. Like different people are just better at height than others. Like every day everyone's winging it.
Yeah, I mean, to some degree, yeah, it does feel like that, right? I mean, like we're making up bedtime stories for our kids. And even like very early in my career, we're going way, way back to the archives now, but I decided, I don't know, I was in my early 20s. I was like, no one is scary. Like, no one's going to intimidate me. I don't care what C-level executive you are. I don't care how many years of experience, but I'm not intimidated. I'm not afraid of you. It was like your teenager talked back to you this morning. Like your toddler didn't want to get in their car seat. And it's like there are things that I feel like when we bring ourselves back to that, it helps to push the imposter syndrome away too, and like help us feel like, okay, like we're all adults here. We all are smart. We all deserve to have a voice or deserve to have a seat at the table here. So I decided that early on that I wasn't going to ever be afraid of anybody, which might sound a little weird, but I take that through my whole career as well.
It could be so irrational too, because you can apply that to, if you've done a million different things in your career, then you can say, I don't have deep expertise in anything, right? But also, if you've done one thing for a really long time, you can say like, oh, this is all I know. Right? Like there's a way to have doubt no matter where, like what world you live in. So it's not necessarily a rational thing.
Amanda, this has been a great conversation. We're almost at time, but I'm curious, like what's a belief about brand marketing or content marketing or just marketing in general that you've changed your mind on in the last, I don't know, let's say year or two?
So one thing that I have changed my mind on in the last year is this concept of buyers and problem awareness. I used to be very staunchly like everyone's problem aware. They know they have a problem. And they know it better than we do. So who are we to say that there are people in our audience who are problem unaware? We're creating content or ads or messaging for unaware buyers. I felt like it was almost insulting to the audience, but I've really changed my tune a little bit on that, where sometimes, because if you think just even outside of a business context, there are times where maybe you want to go to a doctor and you know something's wrong, but you don't know what it is. And they need to diagnose the problem for you. So, like there's some pain, or that there's, something just doesn't feel right. So I've sort of shifted my mind to, okay, in a business setting too, people know maybe there's a pain and maybe they don't know what the underlying problem is, or they don't know, they don't have a name for it, or they're going through their day to day and it's just so much chaos and they haven't had time to really peel back the layers and figure out, okay, what's the root problem, the root cause of these pains or challenges I'm experiencing. So that's where I've changed my mind a little bit on, okay, there could be some sense of problem unawareness, and it's our job as marketers and storytellers to illuminate that problem and help people to understand it in a new way without sort of making them feel like you don't even get your own job or what you're doing. So that's something where I have changed my mind a little bit, and my beliefs on that.
That's awesome. And for people that want to find you online and learn more about you and maybe even hit you up, where's the best place for them to do so?
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn, Amanda Verdino. Just look for the manicured marketer in my headline, and you'll find me there. And if you're interested in Forma and what we do too, you can check us out at joinforma.com, and let me know if you think our brand has that spark of joy that we talked about too.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thanks, guys.